G'day, this is Captainoob and welcome to Fallout 4 Weapon Versus, a series where we take two weapons, pit them against each other, and see which one comes out on top. So today we are looking at the Instigating Shielded Gauss rifle there, and I do say shielded because it's got that little top on it and makes it do more damage, versus the Instigating 6-crank laser musket. Now I'll just give you a brief explanation of how these work. This is the laser musket, and what you do is you crank it and then fire it. This one is already up to 6 cranks. Every time you put a crank in this thing, it loads it with another fusion cell, allowing you to get a powerful shot. As you can tell by the weapon card, we're getting 96 damage, so every crank will add in another 96 damage, which seems to pile up pretty well. Now we have all the necessary damage perks to make this thing good. We don't have to calculate the damage ourselves because we've got a little mod called floating damage, and with that we won't have to actually calculate any damage ourselves. That'll actually just show up on screen when we strike a target, allowing us to more accurately demonstrate the differences in damage. Secondly, you've got the Gauss rifle, which I'll just switch to that real quickly. This thing is a weapon that uses a magazine. As you can tell, it reloads like that, but when you fire it, you need to wait until it's fully charged before you actually fire the thing. Now, as for both of these weapons, I just suggest using the lowest form of stock there, just to keep the weight down and the VATS AP count low, because obviously when you're firing this thing and getting it to full charge, the recoil isn't going to affect you, nor is interrupting your recoil to actually get this thing loaded up with actual sort of, getting it to full charge. The recoil isn't going to matter at all. See, as you can tell, it takes a while to charge to get to full power. Okay, so the Gauss rifle here is a ballistic weapon. It wasn't a ballistic weapon in previous ones, but as you can tell there, it is actually a ballistic weapon. It does run on the 2mm electromagnetic cartridges, which are a lot more rare and expensive than the fusion cell. So running this thing is going to be, it's going to be a full-time job keeping this thing loaded. But with Scrounger, as well as buying this thing constantly from any merchant you see, you can actually keep the Gauss rifle well fed, and it will serve you very well indeed. As for the laser musket, this thing does run on the old fusion cell, which are a lot more common and a lot more easier to get. But here's the thing. Since this is a ballistic weapon, it is equipable with a suppressor, and you might notice the damage right now is only 579. Well, it gets better than that. You see, there's a perk in Nuka World. It's called Ace Operator, and basically what it allows you to do is do plus 25% damage with your suppressed weapons. So with that, we get 724 damage, which if you can do a quick calculation off the top of your head, far outweighs the Instigating laser musket. Now we're actually pulling away from it, which is yeah. Another thing about the laser musket, I feel like it gets too much praise for what it is. I mean, even the game thinks it's a low tier weapon. You can grab this thing by level 2, which I guess is in and of itself is an appeal of it. This thing you can pretty much grab off the bat and then not having to worry about it. But again, it does limit its power a little bit since it's such a low tier weapon, whereas you're going to have to wait until you're level mid-30s before you actually see many Gauss rifles pop up in the world. So definitely for an early game choice, you probably want to get that laser musket because you probably can't even find a Gauss rifle. But yeah, in terms of end game, you definitely want to get over to the Gauss rifle. Now we have a testing dummy just so we can actually show off the damages of this thing. I'm just going to pop a quick save right here so we can come back right to this state as we kill this Myalert Queen. Okay, as you can tell, the Gauss rifle is going to absolutely annihilate Miss Queenie over here. So we'll go ahead and pop a crit. There we go, 25-13 damage on Miss Queenie there. We'll quick load back and we'll test that with a laser musket. Righto, getting our laser musket out now, and we'll go ahead and crouch again, and we'll target the Myalert Queen. Now it is worth mentioning that this thing actually does do more damage to the Myalert Queen at range, simply because it's got a little bit more range to it, but it's not really significant. As you can tell, 185 range for the Gauss rifle. Obviously the suppressor does reduce that by a lot, but compared to the 239 range, you can probably do a little bit better at range with this thing. But both of these things are hit scan regardless of their energy or ballistic properties, so none of that targeting at range is really ever sort of hindered by the player's aim or anything. But as you can tell, they both have the power to eliminate a Myalert Queen even without taking a lot of chems. But what happens if you do take a lot of chems and decide to take on Immersive Gunner's Plaza? I know it's not the vanilla amount of enemies that you'll encounter in that area, but you know what? It's worth testing for. You're going to push these things to limits, so we'll go ahead and test out that. Righto, so we've got ourselves all buffed up to 475 action points, which is crazy. Our special stats look a little bit like this, so yeah, this is why you put a cap on those special stats, because you can't do stupid shit like this. I mean, 28 strength or 28 endurance, that's going to give us 2,700 action points. That's crazy. Anyways, going over all of the effects, I've literally drinking anything that increases our stats in a way, so there you go. There's actually a couple of minuses here. Perception -2. That's not going to help out with VAT's accuracy too much, but somehow I don't think it'll matter. So we've got ourselves all nice and hidden now, and we're going to go and shoot people with a Gauss rifle. We'll quickly crouch down as soon as we get on this little roof of this, I guess you'd call it a truck. Maybe on the bonnet. We could be this close because we've got full agility. Now they are in caution right now, but that's going to be fine. All we need to do here is light up as many as we want to in VATs, and then we're going to let Gun Fu do all the work. Now as you can tell, our AP bar is currently full, but for some reason we can still keep going. This is probably just a visual glitch because the developers probably never intended you to have so many targets at once going. So there you go. Also, we're going to kill this bloody blood bug. This is for... Actually, we can't. That's alright. Let the slideshow begin. 12,000 damage, 15,000, 18,000 damage, and back to 12,000. And every shot past this is going to be a guaranteed crit. So let the crit slideshow begin. This is the advantage of a Gauss rifle. See, when you fire this thing in VATs, it operates like it has a full charge anyway. And with that, we're getting all of these crit bonuses to a fully charged Gauss rifle that already has 950 damage. Now, we could even be doing even more damage right now if I wasn't playing on very hard, which cuts your damage in half. If I was playing on something like normal or very easy, normal would have the 1-to-1 multiplier, and very easy would allow me to do 2 times the damage, and I think 1.5 is the survival multiplier, so could you imagine doing all of that damage? Alright, I think that's enough targets for now. We'll just go ahead and one-shot all these guys. Ooh, did we get a collateral there? Nice. I've never actually seen that before. Okay, so now we're past the third consecutive shot in VATs. Everyone here is going to be dead to an instant critical. And as you can tell, the Gauss rifle is destroying. It's wrecking face. It's overpowered. And that's what saying yeah sounds like I hyped up on Jet in normal time. Have you ever heard that before? I think it's quite disturbing, but I think you get the idea by now. Now, as you can tell, when we get those sneak attack criticals, we're doing it at a rate of, or a multiplier of 6.4%, which is not only added by the CalMax that I took, but also due to Mr. Sandman and all of those ninja sneak attack critical perks as well, and Psychojet is worn off. So now we've came off our high, we might as well leave it here. We'll come back and we'll try this out with the laser musket and see what we can do there. Righto, here we are before we took on the gunners last time, except this time we've got all the buffs, and yes, we're going to use the laser musket instead, so there's all the effects, the same ones. You can verify it if you want, but I would not bother because it's basically the same save. Anyways, we'll do what we did last time. We'll jump up on this particular thing here. Hopefully, they won't notice the big glowing rifle in my hands and would be tipped off to my location with that. But as you can tell, I'm going to get this thing running with a little bit of gun fu, and I'll show you why this thing is absolutely useless in its crowd control thing. So as you can tell there, with all of the subsequent shots that we get, we are only cranking this thing just once, and with that, we can't get any synergy out of gun fu at all, which means we're going to be using a whole lot more of our crits to actually get the kills there, which means we can't crit spam as well. Now if we're super lucky, we'll get those random procs of Grim Reaper Sprint and possibly Mysterious Stranger or 4-Leaf Clover if we don't get the kill. And yeah, and that way we'll be able to keep the crit train rolling. We actually killed that gunner outright, which was good, without the instigating effect too. That's good, but as you can tell, since this thing is also unsilenced and very loud and proud, we're currently surrounded by these gunners. It's enough I mean, enough of our aid items are keeping our health regeneration over what the gunners can throw at us, but as you can tell, we're being pretty much minced at the moment. In fact, they're outpacing my healing with all of my things, which is kind of interesting because healing in this game goes quite quickly. And as you can tell, at this point we're out of crits, so it's going to be very lucky if we can get another one. We'll just nab an easy kill on her. Hopefully that'll give us some crits back, but no. That was a complete waste. I should have waited until a crit to kill that person, but hopefully with the instigating effect here, maybe on this person we'll be actually able to kill that one. Okay, so it doesn't look like we need a crit to actually kill these gunners outright, which is okay, but saying that, the Gauss rifle did so much better too with its better base damage, so it's really no contest here. With the Gauss rifle being able to use gun through, you can absolutely wipe the floor with multiple enemies, which I know this is an exaggerated amount of enemies that you'll face, but you know, it's a nice test to see what sort of power you can get out of this thing. But yeah, I think that is about enough about the sort of crowd control things. I don't really need to sit around here all day clearing out the rest of these gunners, you know, proving it to you. We can't actually kill that gunner brigadier. I think she was hiding behind something that actually gave her a little bit more resistance, and I'm pretty sure I didn't crank that fully, so that's good. But there you have it. Not too great in crowd control. We're going to go ahead and put our weapon away so we now aren't attracted by a big glowing rifle, and we're just going to pretend this never happened. Yeah, the Minutemen, they aren't very well armed, and I think the Railroad used the Gauss rifle in the vanilla game. They'll constantly spawn with it. Obviously a couple of Gauss rifles can be found on the Brotherhood guys, but it's mainly a Railroad weapon, which is kind of strange because it's such a great weapon and the Railroad is such a bad faction. But don't tell Ella I said that. Anyways, so yeah, you definitely get the point of this, but overall damage on one target we'll test next, and I know a perfect candidate we can test that on. Okay, with crowd control tested and confirmed that the Gauss rifle is most dominant in, what about targeting one mean bad boy from far away and wailing him to see how long you can sort of kill him, or see how long it takes for you to actually kill him. So first of all, we've got the Gauss rifle, no crits involved here, we can just let this thing go and it'll do just fine. As you can tell, we beat him in just a few shots there, which is a little bit crazy, but you know what, suppressors make weapons great apparently. Alright, we'll test this with a laser musket and see how we go. Righto, laser musket cranking and loaded up with 6, and we'll go ahead and shoot Swan. Now, obviously, the laser musket and Gauss rifle being a rifle, you can actually make use of the sniper perk, which will stop things in their tracks whilst they're going at you there. But as you can tell, yeah, using what we learned from the laser musket before, not using the multiple shots on the target at one time because it'll just be a waste. Yeah, it's taking a whole lot longer to kill Swan, but yeah, it's doing a pretty good job. Again, considering we're using a much more inferior weapon in general, according to the game that is, and a weapon which can be gotten at level 2, and also an unsuppressed weapon, we're doing quite well against the likes of Swan here. And as long as we can keep ourselves nice and hidden, which should be an easier job than normal simply because there's a thing called agility, and the higher that is, generally the higher harder it is for enemies to detect you, we can actually do pretty well there. So in comes a mysterious stranger, we get an extra crit from him and an extra 1000 damage, which is nice. It does take a much longer time to kill Swan here, but we're probably going to be able to do it very, very easily and without him really noticing. Did I see another crit spawn? Yes, I did. So, through a lot of crit spamming and backing away and also that's nonsense, we're actually able to kill him at an okay speed, but as you can tell, the Gauss rifle was much faster and he is very glitchy today. Sorry, Swan, it just kind of had to happen. That was like death by 1,000 cuts or laser musket strikes, but there you have it. That was the Gauss rifle of the instigating variety versus the instigating laser musket. So hopefully that puts to rest some myths that some people think that the instigating laser musket is better. It's not. There's no versatility to it. The Gauss rifle is so much better, albeit with that the caveat of the more rare ammo and all that. But yeah, again, scrounger and good bartering skills and knowing where to get it is a good thing to keep your ammo supplies topped up. So there you have it. I'm going to chuck this thing where it belongs, and then we'll call it a video there. We have returned to the fires of Mount Doom, for which Fallout 4, the Instigating Laser Musket has been forged, and if I were able to get it out of whatever that is, we can sacrifice it. Please don't come back in Fallout 76. I beg you, please don't come back. Into the bin. Goodbye. So, there you have it. That was my first little foray into sort of comparing weapons in this game, because I feel like there's a little bit of misinformation on the internet there about the laser musket being better than it actually is. Obviously, there's perks and pros and cons to each, which I'll pop up on screen now. That's some cool graphics, right? But there, even with the inherent cons of the Gauss rifle itself, I still feel like it is a better weapon overall due to the better damage and more versatile style of it, so definitely a win for the Gauss rifle there. So let me know what you think of the series. Should it stay? Should it go? Would you like to see more of this? And if so, what sort of weapons would you like me to check out and compare? Because there's a few weapons here that might be comparable and a couple that you'd actually might want to see, or something you'd just like to test out in general. So yeah, be sure to let me know all about that. Thank you for watching, guys.